lovers of crossviews on CMTV. At this time, we shall be getting to the second topic to discuss on the International Nonviolent Day, which is always celebrated on the 2nd of this month of October. And so this is a month of International Nonviolent Day, the International Nonviolent Month, let me put it that way. But we know very well it is celebrated amidst gross violence in Cameroon. And we want to have your views on this. What solution can we have? I will begin this time with you, Mr. Attained. You know, as we started, he said it, violence is not just physical, it's also psychological, and so on. What we are going through in Cameroon, this day being celebrated. Now, how do you look at the month and what is going on in Cameroon side by side?
I think this day is worth celebrating worldwide, and in Cameroon in particular, because the times that Cameroon is going through is a period in which there is a perilous moment that our peace-loving country has never witnessed in history. And even though during the Maquisards and the other, there was violence, but it has never resulted to this apex where you will hear 3,000 people being killed. More than 3,000 people being killed over a period of 2 years. So now, when you talk of non-violence, this day is in commemoration with Mahatma Gandhi, who birthday, where he felt that people should stand for peace and shun from violent practices. And when you look critically, violent practices have never built anything, has never gotten any positive impact in the society. It has never been constructive in any way. That is why this day is a day that I expected our government, the 2nd of October is a day that I expected governments all over the world to bring their citizens together and to tell them, no, the essence of life is all about love. It's all about pushing forward in unity. And now, when we talk of non-violence from this perspective is not only about terrorism. Non-violence boils down to the issue of violence against a woman, the girl child, or let me put it, women who are vulnerable, armed robbery. We talk about terrorism. You talk about crisis. Torture. You talk about psychological tortures. You talk about, there are many of them. And at one point, I made a research on the issue of lack of peace. I came to realize that it could be more of at times importing weapons. That goes in line with psychological torture, where the Cameroonian, peace-loving Cameroonians sit at home, they see the government importing more and more weapons and training more and more military, and they use going out more and more, and at the same time, you see Cameroonians more and more having court cases. And whatsoever. In that case, you will realize that there is something missing somewhere. And what is missing is peace. And once that happens, there's a kind of violent tendencies in the minds of individuals, which there is need for the celebration of this day so that these parties could be put side aside and caution on the essence of peace, on the essence to shun from those practices that will never give them long life. Because what happens in life is that each day you achieve something. Each day you achieve something, and the longer you live, you can build mansions upon mansions.
But do you see this day that was set aside by the UN, do you see it succeeding? Because we see violence all over the world. Now we are taking Cameroon a case study. Do you see it succeeding?
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. The question about the success of the International Month for Non-Violence actually is a question that has two sides. The first side is that if such a day or a month did not exist, maybe violence would have been more than what we currently live. And secondly, if that day exists, is to remind people of the importance of non-violence. So from that perspective, therefore, you agree with me that it's at the end of my discussion that I will tell you the relevance of it at a time when crisis or insecurity is on the rise. First, the United Nations Resolution, Security Council Resolution 61/271 of June 15, 2007 came out with October the 7th as the day to commemorate non-violence. When we talk of commemorating non-violence, we model the lifestyle of, it has been said already by my co-panelist, Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was his name, Mahatma was a title for his long life struggle for non-violence. Gandhi grew up in India. India was a former colony of England.
Yeah.
And they were forced to westernize the culture of what were called then the Indies, the red people. And Gandhi refused. He used the dress style to refuse the imperialism system put in place by the master colony England. To succeed, it was not an issue that took him one day. He traveled. He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer that had no court case in India by then. He had to travel to South Africa and model the lifestyle of Nelson Mandela. Then Nelson Mandela was still in prison. He had to be following all what Nelson Mandela was struggling for and started buying cases. And when he traveled, he decided that just like Nelson Mandela, he was to use a non-violent approach to resolve the case. And if up to today remain the founding father of India, is definitely because he succeeded to win a revolution through non-violence, communicating by the dressing style, communicating by the approach towards violence. And that is where you permit me to settle even for 2 seconds. To say that when we talk of non-violence, it is much more of our response to violence. How you react when you are violated. It's not mostly about you shining away. And I will see this opportunity to shock you who is viewing us. If you are a university student, I want to tell you, you people are part of those who are perpetrating violence on Cameroonians. No, I'm sorry to generalize like that. It's an overstatement. But what I mean here is that our intellectuals are failing us a lot. Their response, instead of responding to violence, they shy away from violence. Most people don't want to say something about the Anglophone crisis because of the repercussion. They are most afraid of their survival status than a revolution that will give freedom to everybody. That is the problem here. That is not what Gandhi preached. Gandhi preached that, for example, you saw Douala came out recently and asked people to wear black on Friday. How many of us, including you, moderator, no, I'm sorry, I don't have to question my moderator on the platform. How many of us Cameroonians actually respected that move? That is what we are talking about. What is our own response to the violence, to the imperial system? We are talking of a government that will soon impose 33%.
Yes, but why you continue? I think the call is for her followers.
Excuse me, sir. We will not segment it to the followers, but the call was made to Cameroonians of goodwill. Cameroonians who are sensitive with the hunger that they are going through. How many of us parents have not yet paid school fees to our parents? It's not normal to have a degree and you don't have something worth doing, or you cannot create a job for yourself. It means that your education was a coward education. It means that somebody sowing lies to you and you pay throughout for 15 years of your life. Because most students, including those who are following or those who have chosen to be watching my novellas or are doing some kind of unnecessary activities as we are talking, when they will graduate, they will soon realize that the degree they have does not correspond with the needs of their society. Yeah. And most of them will be frustrated with themselves first. Let me tell you this short story before I come back to the line of discussion. The other day I was moving to Limbe. I saw one of our course-mates that we graduated from the university together. She was selling fruits. And so when she saw me, I spotted, I zoomed my eye on her like that, bam! And she turned down and started confusing that. I said, oh God, with a degree, you are, this road, they are selling fruits, I don't know, oranges or what. It's a shame. It's a shame. Not that I'm better than you. Be careful. That's not what I mean here. But that you cannot inspire another person to go to school up to your level. Yes. How can you explain that you let book up to that level just to go back and start selling fruits? And let me tell you,
maybe give some more experience.
Your degree is only valid 3 years after you have backed it. After 3 years, forget about that degree. And the government has shortened to say that at 32 you cannot more write concours when you have A level. I don't know. But the government have placed an age limit, and I will explain in another program. Back to the non-violence issue. Those are some of the things that is creating violence. I wanted to cite those cases. To come back to non-violence, to say that when Gandhi actually was talking, he was talking that we should spend our time disseminating techniques on how to respond to non-violence. And in Cameroon now, we have a particular case, an example. Please, you permit me really talk on this case, because most of the time when I want to talk, you always stop me. Maurice Kamto. I have told you that it's not a mistake that he chose the slogan of the party as peaceful change. Though he called for an insurrection, and you asked me this question on this platform, that can we go for insurrection without guns? I told you that, Mr. Moderator, it was another way to tell Cameroonians that get up from your slumber. Personally, Maurice Kamto cannot have a mosquito. Sorry, if a mosquito is biting him, he will only ask somebody to blow it off. That man like that, I have been with him for long. I'm not pushing any gospel here. That's not why you invited me here. We are talking about non-violence, and I'm showing you an example of somebody that we can model in terms of response. He went to the diaspora when he was doing his tour. Most of the Ambazonian leaders rubbished him, insulted him, that he is just using the Anglophone case. He's not buying the Anglophone case. Why? Because he refused to receive them with their flag. Personally, I myself, if you have ever looked me as an Ambazonian, you are wasting your time. Personally, I have always advocated for a free Anglophone, and it does not mean that I want secession. Okay. And I have never wished that anybody to take arm against the government, even when the whole family is being shut down. Never. That is why I have sacrificed to be coming on the platform whenever, even at the detriment of my own family. Have you known how many times my wife have cheated on me just because I'm on the platform? These are things that we don't share, but you only go and discover. Yes. No, please pay me. We're talking about non-violence, and we need to teach people how to respond to violence and to learn. Another way is through education and public awareness. What we are doing here is public awareness. In our school, they need to teach people how to communicate. You see domestic animals. Yeah. Domestic animals have particular way to communicate even when they are hungry, which is different from wild animals. When wild animals are hungry, they don't distinguish the kind of flesh that they consume. But you cannot leave a dog in the house with a baby and come back that the dog have consumed the baby. Never. Whether the dog was hungry, but how? We must learn to respond to violence. Responding to violence is addressing. Dialogue. Nowadays we talk of dialogue. Yeah. You must look for alternative way to express your grievances and not using weapons that can destroy and create more pain. I will come back.
Okay. Let me come to Mr. Item Armstrong. If we look at the International Non-Violent Month and we see this violence still being perpetrated. Recently even we saw our own minister being violated in France. She was violated, is in Madame Ketcha, violated in France during, is it a Thanksgiving in church? Now, if we look at it very well, the West are the people who usually impose such days, but yet these activities take on in their places? Is it like Africa is that vulnerable that is like a dustbin?
That is why we used to say that the problem of Africans come from the West.
Yeah.
Because the West are more of chameleons, where they camouflage for their interests only. So the reality is, at the time, an activity taking place in the West does not defend the interests of the West. They lay off their hands. And they only want to increase the problem, so that once the problem must have radicalized, they will come in to settle the problem. In so doing, they will set down conditions that you have to follow. And once you are following those conditions, it's more or less of taking your resources, because you cannot afford to pay for the cost of such conditions with the limited resources we have. And so I will always say that in as much as these ideas are initiated by the West, most of these activities take place in the West. Can't you look at it? If you look at Syria have, as of now, 49,742 fatalities, deaths that has occurred within that area. You look at Iraq with 23,898. You look at Mexico with 12,224. And you look at Ukraine, Yemen, and you can name the rest. This is not Africa.
Yeah.
So I think Africa, what we are doing is we are trying to copy a Western life. And that is what is hunting us down. If you look at, in those days, before the coming of the colonial master, we never knew what is independent. We never knew what is sovereignty. All we knew is how to love one another and to follow the instructions of our chiefs who were there to head us. But now Western civilization have come to stay, and it has come with its good, the ugly and the good. So to say that the West are the one who are at all the time initiating this thing, it will be more or less biased. Because we Africans too, if you look at the West, even though the West initiate these violent tendencies, but they develop, because some of them move into these tendencies with a desire to make it, to cause.
That's why I say Africa is vulnerable, because even if they make arms, they ship it to Africa, they create chaos between.
I will agree with you to an extent, but to an extent I will not agree with you, because when you talk about ship the weapons to Africa, it's those guns that have worn out. Because let me ask you, the atomic bomb that is in Nagasaki in those days.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the effect is still felt today. If that kind of atomic bomb is dropped in Cameroon today, me and you will be a story. So now, what I'm saying is, you might feel that the West is shipping these things to Africa. No. Because they are also aware that an African revolution might come up. And when the African must have been empowered to an extent, they will not have their way in.
Mr. Attained, so is it news that if you find any terrorist group in Africa, is it news again to us that in most cases these groups are backed up by the West?
These groups are backed up by the West to an extent because of the ideology and the mentality we Africans carry. We feel that it's only through the West that we can achieve our freedom. For example, look at the Anglophone crisis. They are barely waiting for a statement from the UN that you have UN from henceforth has given you independence, and Yaoundé will relieve them, and the Southern Cameroonians will smile and throw bottles of beer on the street.
But I hear so many Cameroonians saying that we should solve our problems.
Yeah, what I'm trying to paint is we should not be relying on the West for solutions.
Okay.
There is this theory I know that there is nothing for nothing. Yes. Even you don't agree with me. When you witness it, you agree. There is no way even your wife in the house will give you food without expecting something different. When he is cooking, what is behind her mind is, if this man tastes this food,
I don't know, do something.
Yeah, he will surely provoke him to love me the more, or to give me more money, or so. What I'm saying is, Africans feel that when the West is doing all these things, the West have a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
And the hidden agenda is to place us where we are permanently. And where are we? No development, no technology, no infrastructure. We cannot create our currency in most African countries ourselves. We cannot. Why? Because once they spare us of that, we will automatically be ourselves, and we will be, the sovereignty we claim on daily basis, we will assume it effectively, and there will be no way. You know, this issue of looking at white people as a demigods have caused Africa. Even today, Mr. Rambo, I'm sure that if a white man was here, you will pose him more questions than me, because you will start seeing him as a second Jesus who has come to this platform. Africa has to desist from that mentality, otherwise we will continue to kill our brothers, thinking that a ghost who is having a different color will come and say, stop, please don't kill. I have come as a white man to know. We have the power it takes to settle our dispute amicably among ourselves, and to know that the essence of living is for one another. Because once A dies, B cannot survive single-handedly. Because perhaps B should have been a farmer and A would have been an officer. If a farmer dies, who will produce food in the farm?
Let me come to you, Mr. Anjomos, adding to what you have to say. Let's look at now that violence on men, or let me say women and children especially, because we know this violence is perpetrated much on the both physically, psychologically, in any means. Now, there is something that worries me all the time, especially when I see the government and all these NGOs that parade the streets. They say they are fighting violence. But if you look at some areas, especially in the north, you see children of 12 years who are giving out for marriage to their grandparents. Is that not too much violence? And we hear NGOs that are fighting this every day.
And your question is coming in some 24 hours after the International Day for the Girl Child celebrated under the theme Our Equality, Our Future for Us All. Like, we are guaranteeing to the girl child that she has an equal future with the male child. But in practice, it becomes a far-fetched reality in some community with fear to tax some religion and some ethnicity, some ethnic group. ETV, Equinox recently had a program, Regard Social, where a father of close to 70 years was, beating his chest happily to have taken a third wife after the two first that he got at the age of 16 years old. Yeah. And for me, that is violence, and it falls within the category of cultural violence that I think the Cameroon have ratified so many international treaties, including that of gender, that need to take care of that. I think I was not very satisfied when my learned panelist said if a white person was on the platform, you could have given priority, because I know you're already well educated on that. But I want to jump into one question you asked him about the case of the Minister of Urban Development, Celestine Coutes, that went to France and was chased out by the Brigade Anti-Sardinat squad in Paris, where she was giving having a memorial service in beloved
the accident that they had in the north, so he was giving Thanksgiving to God. Yes.
So, and she was being chased out with some rising voices that said they are the one maintaining the dictatorial regime in place, and that
they should go and repair Cameroon.
She is already used to blush. She cannot come here and be pretending that she is giving thanks to God. If truly she believes in God, she should be able to stand against what is happening, especially in the Northwest and the Southwest. I think this message does not only go to her alone, because I think we have reached a level where a tooth for a tooth, and an eye for an eye. where when you see the way people are sucking their fingers and dining with the regime, they should know that they will be called to book when the right time comes, because those of us who have taken the other sides and are promoting peace, peaceful protest, non-violence, we are being mocked at. Practically, my business is totally down.
But can two wrongs make a right?
Excuse me. We are heading somewhere where God has to wait. We have to. This one has to deal between you and me, because when you take your position and you are eating, you should be able to understand that I'm fasting because you have decided to take that position. And so when it comes to time to reap the effects of you saw Mamadou Mutai said it, and include every militant of the CRM. I remember that night that we were taking on to the sea, you asked me what become of my family. I told you that they are already aware that this venture I have taken is either for death or life, and if I survive, definitely I will be a better person. Just to say that we have reached that level with those who are supporting the system, either directly or indirectly. Directly by their families that keep writing concours, keep benefiting from the largest, keep dining and stabbing and sending on social media. We simply say that all we have now to do is to take stock of that. Because it's a regime that has proven that they are rigging to win election. It's a regime that has proven that it's maneuvering over students in the university by giving them 50,000 at the end of every year. What for? Nobody can ever justify. Students that do not have electoral cards, that you graduate with a bachelor's degree and you don't know basic computer in a digitalized world, that you are a teacher, you are teaching the note of 2003 to a student that you want him to have PhD and teach the same thing. I think there's no other way to punish the next generation than to do that. And Gandhi, because we are talking about Gandhi, Gandhi said poverty is the worst form of violence. It means maintaining your children without giving them food is the worst form. Because when people are poor, they are vulnerable.
Yeah.
They are vulnerable. Corruption has taken another dimension, has become a cankerworm in our society because of poverty. And when people are being blamed, they don't only blame the authority, they also blame you that you go and bribe. It means everybody who is following me tonight that have bribed to win a concours, you are at the same level of we are decrying you at the same level that we decry the government in place. Because you can abstain yourself. You can abstain yourself, believe in your true potential, develop yourself. People that are when you take footballers, people have engineered and factor in some other environmental contribution to become self-made personality. There are so many businessmen around. Did they do magic to become what they have become? No. And so every human being has a faculty to develop his inborn talent. I don't want to stigmatize those who have genuinely passed their concours. Even Attained here, he wrote the ENAM, magistrate level, and passed. If not of corruption, he could have been seated there. We are talking of a time that most of them are at the parliamentary flats. If they are not finished, they came here for internship and they are listening to us. I had a heated debate with them when I visited them, and I told them that for most of them that have bribed their way through, they should know that they are going to face us. Because the next republic, whether they like it or not, if we are not dead, they will definitely meet us. Either by intellectual or because as I talk like this, I've groomed myself to prepare myself for the next generation, and there's no way they can remove me on the table. So what I was trying to explain here, Mr. Moderator, is to say that non-violence and truth are inseparable. Okay? When I talk like this, it touches the mind of the mothers, the children that are growing up, because what I'm speaking is the truth. And you cannot dissociate that from non-violence. I have chosen, even in the house, my wife will tell you how I behave. I'm not that kind of person that I will be heated over things. But I know the limits. When you reach a certain level, I pack my things, I go out. Okay? It's to tell you that you must reach a level of self-awareness. That you are responsible for your action. You don't carry an action, and when the repercussion came, like the case of Kecha Kute, people start saying in the house of God. She knew that was the house of God, and she's maintaining the territorial routine. What was she doing in the house of God? I'm talking even to all those political elites that are following
place of repentance.
Forget that thing. Forget you people cannot maintain a regime that is causing blood, and you go and you sit in the house of God. You are wasting your time there. And that is why we say that he has reached a level between we and them. We have to save it. But any way. I'm not in any way.
No, what I'm saying is that the house of God is a place for sinners.
I'm not in any way.
It's not a place for righteous beings.
Excuse me, sir. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way. Bringing the closeness between me as a militant with the bar, the Brigade Anti-SAD now. They said that they are a mature group to take care of themselves, and so they don't need that they link them to the CRM to give them a coloration. The CRM is an entity, a moral entity. The bar is another moral entity, and so they take responsibility of the act. So I was simply portraying what the violence of this regime can cause, and that when they have the repercussion, they should not start crying that God has to intervene.
Mr. Attained Strong, I want you to focus on the violence that we have on women and children especially, because it really hurts. There's one time where I attended a seminar and had to ask the people, what are they doing with what is going on in the north? Because it hurts me to a fault. You will go to an old man of 70 years, as you said, he has about 5 and above wives, and you see them, girls who can be his grandchildren. Is that not something that the government should fight in more than the way they are doing now? Even these NGOs, are they not just out to eat money?
I think before I answer your question, it's a very important question that we have to treat on this platform before we depart from here, because as it is called, a woman is is God on the planet Earth, because she's the one who produces. Now, I want to correct some statements that were made by my learned panelist, Mr. Njomo Suri. You know, there's this statement that injustice somewhere is injustice everywhere. When we start giving legalization to, in line with what you are saying, to a woman whom we know her for, that is Celestine Kecha Kutes, we know her for her seriousness. If there's one minister,
he has changed his ministry. I think in this platform, on this platform, we have really appreciated her.
If there's one person that we should appreciate in the government, in this country, especially in the ladies department, is Celestine Kecha Kutes. Why does she marry this? No. And even if she has to be humiliated, not this way. This is a lady who had an accident in the course of serving the nation in the north few months ago, and she almost lost her life. She did not have this accident while she was going to dine or to drink, like most of the CRM militants used to do in Douala when they are going. No. Now, what I'm trying to say is, this is a citizen who is patriotic to a fault, and she is a citizen who follows transparency to a fault. So if they want to perhaps to pay back the regime, maybe for have not properly managed, it's not only a vulnerable woman. Perhaps they would have looked for a gigantic man like Attained Paul that they felt he is outspoken to do such things. I'm not saying that it should be done to my minister.
Outspoken for the
but I'm just trying to paint that we know in African tradition men are stronger than women. So they should have first a stronger man of that magnitude. But yet they went for vulnerability. That is why I expected women to rise. Women should not sit and see their fellow mother.
They have been rising. They have been
being humiliated in such a manner, and they equate it to misappropriation and equate it to bad governance. No. To answer your question, I'm trying to say that if you look at women, it is something worth appreciating. Women are people who produce, and they are vulnerable, they are volatile. A woman is somebody who is next to God in terms of conscience. Now, treating such a person with serious and with some kind of that is bad heart will not give you will not make you a human.
A woman is next to God.
Yeah, the woman is next to God. Somebody is next to God, because a woman produces children, and God was the one who created. When God created, God was
understand, but just to say, somebody made a statement that the best friend to a woman is a snake.
Yeah, there are snakes, but when you say snakes, it's just the way people see it. To really handle your question, please, if you go to some suburbs in the village, you will see children who are 7 years, children who are 10 years. In my locality, Akwaya, where I came from, at first, immediately a woman gives birth to a child. Somebody carries a firewood. An old man who cannot trek properly brings firewood and puts at the door. It's a signal that she is interested in your daughter. And once that is done, that man continues doing hunting, bringing animals to the family, and the man does everything. If that family falls into a problem, they consult that man to give money, and once that is done, the man has been paid, is indirectly paying the bride price, either for that woman to marry the daughter. These are practices that should be welcome. And then punching of women as well. Women might be mouthy as it is, but they don't warrant this kind of punching techniques that men adopt, because a woman in presenting her worries might be emotional.
There are some who say they love it when the men beat them.
Yes, that is the ideology of some women. You know, women love sweet things. And some women, they feel that, I asked my sister, why is it that some women like when they are beaten? She told me, even her herself, once a man made her angry, that is when she requests for more. And that is the poverty mentality in Africa. Once you are poor, you feel that it's only from a man that you can solve. They are not self-empowered. They feel that it's only from a man has more than them. And that is what pushes our women to the position they are. Beating women, killing women, abusing women, raping women, and perhaps
vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. It is unacceptable.
The women also.
It is unacceptable, and the Cameroon government has been doing, should be on its feet, especially the Ministry of Social Affairs. They should be on their feet to make sure that every perpetrator of violence in that manner should be dealt with the way they have been doing.
Okay. Let's say we shall still...
To round up the topic on non-violence, at the point I felt like we have dislocated from the topic and we're talking something else, that we must keep non-violence as our goal and not make strong progress towards it. Okay? It's very difficult to uphold to the standard of non-violence. It's uphold to suffer. You know, when I talk with my heart. Yeah. Because I'm one of those Cameroonians that provides development opportunity for other young people to give a direction to their life. Okay, I give psychotechnical tests to young adults to decide on their pathway. Okay, I do that through social media. I do that through training. I do that through guiding and counseling. And most of the times I'm not paid for what I do. Most of the time I do that for free. But I have standard B that does not care about me. Okay? And when I think that some people are romancing the system that is maintaining this kind of governance policy, I just hope, just like Gandhi, that I'm working towards fine-tuning my non-violence approach. Because no matter the length of the night, definitely something good will come out of it. And to give my final words, what I should say, as far as women rights is concerned, is so that we all, grown-up men like us, at least, should not be talking about, we should master who women are. Because at our age, we already have serious things to do with women, if not having children. And so we will not come here and be dressing women in a way that we don't treat them. What I can say about women is that truly, they are the best incarnate the values of non-violence. By their nature, by their biological build-up, they look very vulnerable and so very sensitive as well. So it might be the best school to learn how to deal with non-violence, because naturally women, their biological build-up shows that they solve most of their problem through their approach. And so men shall gain a lot by learning from women how they solve, how they manage the household through that non-violent approach, how they seduce the man to take money, because we toil the whole day and go and empty the account in a woman just to make her happy, just to capture that smile. I think women will shall also learn how to use that same tactic when we are dealing with our counterparts, okay, with our power counterpart in politics, with our customer in the office, with our counterpart wherever, so that we can also grab money. Because since at the end of the day, it's money that actually is the religion, we should be able to learn, fine-tune, and use non-violent approach towards grabbing budget or money.
Okay, let's end with this topic. Now, briefly, let us look at the violence in schools, in the school milieu, because it concerns children a lot. There are so many children, as somebody who have dealt with students, there are times that children don't study well because either the approach of a teacher, the teacher frightens students. If there are some subjects even that students don't like because of the teacher, either he beats and so on, insults and so on. What's your take about violence on children?
Yeah, I think children are, like I used to always put it, they are vulnerable, and being vulnerable, they're always scared. The mere fact that a teacher is always, in most cases, teachers are older in age than students. There is always that tendency that every word that comes out of the teacher's mouth is more or less the gospel truth. And these children take it serious. And some of these parents who must have gone through training, but the training has not gone through them, they feel that they can come to school, the grievances they carry at home, they can bring it to the campuses and unleash it on the children. No, there are some kind of professional ethics that I feel that they should be taught in these training schools, whereby if a teacher is graduating from a school, he must have been proven beyond reasonable doubt that she is well trained, he is well trained, and when she goes out, she's not going to demoralize the children. You will see a teacher like where I grew up, Akwaya, you will be going to school. The first thing a teacher will do, when you come late, you sleep on a stone, or you carry a stone, and they will learn you very well. And secondly, every teacher in school will have a girlfriend, including the principal. Once you want to divert from according to the values your mother inculcated into you, they threaten your success or your future academically.
Especially in the higher institutions.
Yes, it is not even in our universities. Yes. And then secondly, you will see where immediately some teachers enter the class, some children, in fact, immediately some lessons or some courses are about, the time is about to approach. Children start escaping. You can barely meet 2 or 3 students in class. Why? All these are behavioral problems by teachers. We should adopt, like I used to put it, a pull factor. I knew teachers that use other strategies than what they know to make students learn. That is why it is said that learning without playing make Jack a dull boy. So teachers should know that at one point, they should not only be hard. They should cause the student to relax their nerves, and then spin again to present what they have on their books. And students too. There are some of those students that feel that because they come from privileged homes, they can come and intimidate teachers. No. Once you are out to achieve and to acquire, you have to be humble. There are no two way out. Somebody is given knowledge and the other is at the receiving end. When you are receiving, you don't impose.
Okay.
So I want to call on our young Cameroonians that I know they have been doing, and they are well brought up in their houses, to continue being serious, because education is the key.
Mr. Njomo Siri, what do you have to say? Your last word on this violence in the milieu of school, because it involves children a lot.
Yes, my repeated moderator, I don't visit those milieu most often. Maybe you could have asked me the relationship in seminars, conferences, in media houses.
Okay.
Then I will tell you that.
No, you can go on.
We also have cases in media houses where editor-in-chief actually used their position to dictate sexual orientation to their colleague and subordinates. We equally have sports milieu, like the wrestling of karate, where the president of the FICA Karate was dismissed, given slam an ADL sanction, before he joined any other sportive activity. So we have had situations like that coming up where people take advantage of their position, of their leadership position, authoritative position to dictate sexual orientation to their followers and colleagues. Personally, as a professional that I've been working for so many years, early in my career, I had that temptation. I was a young manager with a very beautiful girl put beside me to work with, and I always remember, and I've always stayed within the framework of my job orientation. They want me never to do that, and I thank God up to this point I have made sure that I uphold to that standard. I've worked in a hotel, restaurant, where university students used to come for, I'm talking, some can recognize me when they used to come for their end of year graduation and so most of those things. My response has always been professional, and because we are talking about violence, even to keep a woman waiting, violence again, we spoke of psychological waiting. Yeah. Destroying the heart of a woman, promise a woman a marriage and go and marry another one, that is still violence. So when we talk of violence, it's not only limited to rape, okay? Violence extends, it goes fetching in so many social, yeah. So when we are conceiving it, all we should say is that do to other what you expect.
Okay, we just have 1 minute each to end. Let me start with you in 1 minute. Now, violence from the other end that we have been encouraging, we have been talking on their side, especially children and women, because we can't lie that at times this violence comes from maybe dressing, the kind of dressing code we see on the streets today, maybe seduction, all those kind of things. It comes from the youths especially.
Yeah, I think some of these behaviors is as a result of a change in technology and fashion. Okay. Why our youths are consistently following the trend of that's the modern trend to change fashion. When the West introduce a particular behavior, they follow automatically as if it was just a press of a button. You know, they say the world is becoming a global village where just at the click of a button, information is everywhere. Just as we speak, the new fashion outside there is wearing slippers and moving on the street by ladies as we speak, and putting chains as well, and putting short skirts. The skirt that can expose and not wearing of your pants. So majority of girls today, especially in the university milieu, they don't wear pants. Why? They want their buttocks to be dancing so that men can be pulled. So at that point, once they are abused as well, they blame the young men who are just being pulled. Even though we have to control our emotions as young men, not to be pulled along, we have to also call on the ladies to make sure that they should they should not be tempting. You know, men are people who the way they are by their making, they cannot resist a particular level of temptation, especially when some parts of the body are fluctuating from one angle to the other and in a very romancing manner. So we want to call on ladies to also make sure that they should be dressing responsibly. Yes, if you want to be a responsible lady tomorrow, start being responsible now. Because if you dress like that, we will go into the buttock and spoil you, impregnate you, and you end up a mother of 20 children and no future. So now, I want to end by saying this. Cameroon, where we are, is facing a lot of hazards and a lot of violence from all angles. You look at Boko Haram, you look at the threat that is being perpetrated by MRC, you look at the opposition that are trying to bring in some kind of resistance as to why the country is not moving forward. You look at the Anglophone crisis. You look at poverty. You look at the tribalism. You look at Cameroon is going through a whole lot of violent practices. And what, as a patriotic Cameroonian, I will call on every Cameroonian is that we have to emulate what other countries are doing so as to move forward. If we want to build this country, to make this country look attractive like America and other Western countries, we have to join our hands. If a classroom is bad, we should be checking on how we can throw cement on the wall to plaster it, and how we can put paint, or how to remove the classroom and to add a structure that is more, and not to destroy what has been put in place.
Mr. Njomosiri, we are ending the program.
If there are two things you must not take back home today, or you should throw in the trash can first, is the apology about rape, about forced sexual activity because of your dress style. It goes back to what Gandhi says, your response to violence. And you see that it's a music that is very common with the dictatorial regime, and you can see how they manifest it, how they 20 children.
No, I'm saying that. No,
okay.
I'm trying to say
that children shouldn't dress.
If you don't dress responsibly,
I think I was
with some other
very young girls.
But the manner in which they were dressed.
So many young girls spoil their future.
Natural. Yes. You cannot resist. So just be honest. Say the truth. Say the truth and don't hide behind the back.
As I was saying, if there are two things you must not take back home, dear friends, is that you have the freedom to dress as you like it.
No, not.
It is a responsibility of your community.
Moral indecency.
You know, the places where you visit have dress codes. If those dress codes are established before you get there, you personally know that you have to dress that way. But in your normal environment, please feel free. Fit the environment the way you deem it. It is a responsibility of the community to take care of their needs. Secondly, we cannot
encouraging moral indecency on the street.
We are out of time.
Do not look for a third party to share your ignorance. We cannot sit here and make the apology of the West that they are responsible of our low development. It is the books that you read. It is the activities that you undertake. It is a kind of school that you go. It is a kind of parental mentor that you have received that have molded you to be the person you are today.
Okay.
It's your responsibility to therefore discover your purpose and fulfill it.
Mr. Attained, thank you so very much for coming.
Thank you. I'm most elated to be on your platform, and I will still encourage my young Cameroonians to know that we are not blaming anybody. I'm urging them. You know, morality is the best value you can hold on to. When you become immoral in your way of life, you become perverse. Yeah. When you become perverse, there's nothing good that can come out of you. I want to encourage you people not to follow the instructions of the MRC, because they might be, they will encourage
Mr. Njomosiri, please. Mr. Njomosiri, thank you so very much for coming.
Issues of morality and ethnicity are cross-cultural. We must have the elegance to respect others the way they are and not to victimize them.
Dear viewers, who want to say that this is where we end the program. Not every day you shall be expecting Anglophone crisis and so on. We should learn to educate ourselves. Those who have ears, we believe they must have heard. I've been Mwambo William, the moderator of the day. See you next time.